Lovely. So let's start. Great. Hey everyone, welcome back to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, the podcast where we explore how mental mastery fuels extraordinary outcomes in life, business, and everything in between. I'm your host Avik, and today's episode is for all of you entrepreneurs, dreamers, and innovators who are constantly navigating high stress environments, fast paced decisions, and that ever elusive balance between productivity and the peace of mind. But what if I told you that success isn't just about the hustle, it's all about wiring your brain for peak performance? And today we are diving into a fascinating conversation with someone who knows exactly how to do that. Our guest is none other than Jason Munson. So welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you, Avik. Thank you for that introduction.
Lovely, lovely. So Jason, like before we start, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all of our listeners. Dear listeners, Jason is the stress interventionist, a leading consultant at Neurochange Solutions, and a key collaborator with Dr. Joe Dispenza. So he has made it his life's mission to turn stress from a liability into an asset by applying cutting edge neuroscience techniques to enhance the decision making, emotional intelligence, and the overall well being. So, Jason, welcome to the show. Excited to learn how entrepreneurs can literally reshape their brains for the success. So, let's dive in.
Sounds good.
Lovely. The entrepreneurial brain under stress, it's really get great understanding. So if you can share, I mean, about the stress in entrepreneurial settings, like as someone who's worked with high performers, uh, what do you think that makes stress so overwhelming for the entrepreneurs? Is it a constant pressure to innovate, lead, or succeed, or what do you say?
Well, stress comes from many different areas. First off is that there are multiple sources that cause stress.
Yeah.
So we have things that are physical stress. So
Hmm.
physical stress are falls, injuries, accidents.
Yeah.
They can be like a headache or a lack of sleep, things like that. So things that are part of your environment, of your physical environment, that can be a cause for stress. Then we have things that we don't have as much control over sometimes, which is chemical stress. And
Yeah.
chemical stress, these can be toxins, these can be pollutants, these can be viruses or colds, even alcohol or other substances, that can cause that chemical stress on our body. But ultimately, uh, if you're experiencing physical stress or if you're experiencing chemical stress, then that leads to the third one, which is emotional stress. And emotional stress can be
Mm.
deadlines, they can be things going on with families, with people in relationships, with business partners, with customers. Any of those things will
Mm.
cause that emotional stress. And then, of course, the physical or the chemical stress will ultimately has an effect on the emotional stress component. So, let's say, for instance, a person, is having a good time on the weekend and they're, enjoying some activity and they end up breaking a bone, breaking an arm, breaking a finger, which has an effect on their ability to perform their job. Well, then they're not getting paid like they would be getting paid because they can't perform the work. That's going to lead to the emotional stress of like, oh my gosh, I'm, not able to pay my bills now. So you have those three areas of the physical stress, the chemical stress, and emotional stress that have a big impact upon entrepreneurs. And when a person or entrepreneur, when you're living in stress and you're living in survival, I know this really well have been in this place really well so many times of having so much to do, so much to take care of, so much to handle, and going from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other, worrying about what's going to happen if you don't get done what you need to get done, and then something else comes along sideways from family or relationship that just adds on to the pile. Um, and unfortunately, our research shows that most people are in a stress state 70% of their day.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah. And like so when you work with the entrepreneurs, what's the most common stress related habit or maybe the mindset block you see? So if you can share.
The most common stressor,
Yeah, yeah.
I would probably say everybody's working up against a deadline of one sort or another. That there's some result that's being needed to be produced. And so the stress of having to meet that deadline puts people into survival mode. Um, but another stressor can very often be, the people that they're having to work with. I know I've had to endure working with some people that just being in the same room with that person puts me into stress. And so in stress, people tend to be very narrow focused because they're just trying to survive. They're trying to figure out how to survive the situation that they're in. Um, so I can use an example um, from my own life. Is I've run e-commerce businesses, Amazon businesses, on online businesses, and so for instance, working with Amazon, you have certain performance metrics that you have to meet. Well, I've as most Amazon sellers have had, if they've been working in that business for a period of time, things happen. You don't meet Amazon standards, and you get this email that says you have you're a notice of a 72-hour shutdown, which means they're going to turn off your Amazon business in 72 hours because you have not meet a metric. Um, and so when that happens, a couple things. Number one is the income stops. So there's no
Mhm.
more money coming in from Amazon. But the second thing is that they hold on to all of your money. So any money
Mhm.
that Amazon owed to have paid out to you, they're going to keep that. And they will keep that money um, until you have resolved the issue with the account. And if you don't resolve the issue with the account, they just keep the money. So depending on the issue, and this has happened to many people, depending on the issue with the account, some people have never been able to reactivate the account, and Amazon has kept their money, and it's led to the bankruptcy of their business. So just that's an extreme example, but everyone in business in entrepreneurial there's always a threat, there's always something that's around the corner that's ready to take them out, um or cause them an issue. And um I wouldn't say all entrepreneurs, but many entrepreneurs are facing that one thing that's constantly like the whip at their back, that is pushing them into a survival state rather than a creative state, which is where we would want to be as entrepreneurs when we have it in that creative state, when we're able to make solutions to our problems more readily available.
Interesting. Yeah. And like I know meditation is central to your work, but for many entrepreneurs, the thought of sitting still for even 5 minutes feels like torture. Definitely. So, how do you get people over that initial resistance to the meditation?
Boy, people have to be ready for it in their lives a lot of the time. I know for many years, for decades, I don't imagine you could have convinced me to try to meditate. And I remember when I was asked by a coach to start meditating about 5 years ago, and I tried doing it. It was very unstructured for me. I just told him, I said, I'm really bad at this,
Okay.
not good at meditating. And what people need to learn and what they need to realize is what is the benefit, what are you getting from meditation? And
Mhm.
so being able to meditate, it's a way of getting yourself out of stress. It's a way of disconnecting from your external environment, from the constant stimulation that's coming in from people, like you said, sitting still for 5 minutes for an entrepreneur seems like an eternity. But the very act of disconnecting from the external environment and from the familiar past or the predictable future, and just sitting with oneself in the generous present moment, just being right where you are in that moment, that is the ultimate state of creation. You can't create anything from the past. You can't create anything in the future. You only can create things in the moment right now. So the process of disconnecting from the external environment and connecting with the internal environment in the generous present moment. Well, in that state, now unlimited possibilities are available. There's new opportunities. Your brain can think in a way where it's driving solutions. And then even on a deeper level, when we're trying to grow as entrepreneurs, when we're trying to grow as people, when we're trying to work on that personal development side of things, all of us have, beliefs and biases and that don't support us. A lot of them we get from being very, very young, and those beliefs and biases are programmed into our subconscious mind, and we can be making decisions in our businesses based upon the experiences that we happened when we were very young, 4, 5, 6 years old, having to do with how we value ourselves. And we may say yes or no to something based upon that evaluation that comes from our childhood. Meditation is a way for us to unwire those negative, unsupporting thought habits and conditioning. And it's a way of rewiring the person that we want to become. So, for myself, there have definitely been times, in my business where I thought, you know what, and it was just a subconscious thought. I caught it one day. I said that I had this thought that none of the people that I wanted to have as clients needed what I had or had the money to buy it. And I caught that thought, and I'm like, how am I going to act if I'm meeting with my clients and my underlying belief is that they don't want it and they don't have the money? I'm not going to show up very powerfully for that, you know? So, but I could actually take that thought and bring it into meditation, and I can say, this is a thought that I no longer want to think. And the thought that I do want to think is that my clients really need what I have. They want it. They're waiting for me to come and give it to them, and they have the money to pay for it. And that's the thought that I adopt through meditation, and that gives me power. So I would say to entrepreneurs, meditation makes you more powerful.
Perfect. That's really really interesting. Yeah, and the fear of failure is something nearly every entrepreneur deals with at some point. So, from a neuroscience perspective, what's actually happening in our brains when we fear the failure, and how can we walk through it?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that question. And that's a very interesting process because the one thing you have to realize is first off is that fear is not something that just exists inside of your brain. It exists inside of your body. And that's a really key point, that you have a neurological and biological response, or rather process that is happening in response to the fears. So so it starts out, with thoughts. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, when they wake up in the morning, the first thing that they start thinking about is their problems. It's very common. They think about the things that they're afraid of happening. So if you have these thoughts about, how are we going to get the sales? How are we going to
Mm.
get the marketing? I've got, this person in my business that isn't performing, as well as I need them to perform. We had this breakdown yesterday. Um, are we going to be able to make payroll? Any number, of these things. So we start thinking these thoughts, and these thoughts happen in the part of the brain. It's called our neocortex, which is that walnut shaped part of our brain. That when you see pictures of brain, is that outside part of your brain. That's where all your thoughts happen. That's where the seat of your consciousness. It's where all your memories exist. It's where we access our outer world through our five senses. So you start having all these thoughts firing off
Mm.
inside of that brain, and they create a level of mind in the front part of our brain called our neocortex. And the level of mind, it says, I'm afraid, or I'm scared, or I'm fearful, right? So what happens is, then our neocortex, it sends these signals to another part of our brain, called our limbic brain. And those signals activate the limbic brain. It's also called the emotional brain, because the limbic brain is what regulates and controls and manages our feelings. So the neocortex sends these signals to the limbic brain. The limbic brain gets really active, and it sends signals to a gland inside your body. In the
Right.
case of fear, it's going to send a signal to the adrenal glands, right? So it sends the signal to the adrenal glands, and the adrenal glands say, okay, we're going to start producing adrenaline and cortisol and some other chemicals. And those chemicals start circulating through our bloodstreams, and we experience them as the emotion of fear. It's the feeling that we have inside of our body, right? These are chemicals. Uh, the brain checks in with the body and it says, yeah, I'm feeling afraid. What are some other thoughts that I can have that support the feeling that I have inside my body? And then it goes through the process again, comes up with another network of thoughts that reinforce the feeling of fear. It produces a level of mind in the frontal lobe. It activates the limbic brain. The limbic brain sends another set of signals down to the adrenal glands, and the adrenal glands spit out some more of the chemicals associated with fear. And most people get stuck in this thinking, feeling loop, thinking fearful thoughts, feeling fearful feelings, and they, an extreme case, they do this for 10, 20, 30 years, and then it just becomes a personality trait. And as anybody knows who's run any business, is that fear is absolutely crippling, because it stops people from doing the things that they need to do in order to be successful. The good news is that you can stop that thinking, feeling process of
Mm.
fear, but you have to be intentional about it. And the intention that you have to have is to think a new set of thoughts. Okay?
Yeah.
Because the thoughts produce the chemical reaction inside the body. So if you start thinking a new set of thoughts, an empowering set of thoughts, start focusing on the vision of your company and the potential that you see in it, and what would you love to have, not what you think you can get, but what would you love to have happen inside of your company, inside of your organization, or in your relationships or your family. What would life look like if things were working perfectly? I find it's good to write it down. Write down what is the ideal vision for the future, for your organization, for your life. Start thinking those thoughts. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you are in fear, and you start thinking positive thoughts of your future, guess how long it takes for the chemicals of fear to stop running through your body? How long would you think that would take?
Just fraction of a second.
90 seconds to 2 minutes.
Oh.
90 seconds to 2 minutes. Those chemicals dissipate
Uh-huh.
and you're giving yourself new thoughts. So now you have a new set of thoughts, a new level of mind
Yeah.
that signal the limbic brain. And now the limbic brain is sending signals to a different hormonal center. And now you start feeling emotions like love and
Mm.
gratitude and excitement.
Yeah.
In both cases, whether it's fear and anxiety and worry, or
Mhm.
love, gratitude, and excitement, they are chemicals that are running through your body. And the
Yeah.
good and the bad thing about those chemicals is that they're highly addictive,
Mm.
just like any other drug. So you can condition yourself to be addicted to the chemicals associated with fear and that feeling, or by conscious effort, awareness, and intention, you can condition yourself to become addicted to the feelings of love and gratitude. And I don't need to tell you which one's going to support entrepreneurs, um, or just any person in their business and in their life. Those feelings of love and gratitude are absolutely the most powerful feelings that a person can feel.
Exactly. Exactly. Very true. Lovely. And like if someone listening feels stuck in a negative or a kind of limited mindset, where's the first place they should start to create meaningful change? What do you say?
Okay. So the first thing you need to realize is that you cannot think about all of your problems and feel the negative emotions that are associated with all those problems. You can't do that and focus on your positive vision of the future and
Mhm.
the emotions, the elevated emotions that go along with that vision. You can't do both at the same time. You
Yeah.
can be in one place or the other. You can be in the negative thoughts and the negative emotions, or the positive thoughts and the positive emotions, but you cannot be in the same place at the same time. Once you embrace that concept or embrace that understanding, and you get clear on what your perfect life would be like, not what you think you can get, but what would things be like if it was just absolutely the best for you? When you get clear on that, when the negative thoughts start to come in
Mhm.
and the problems start to show up, and you find yourself obsessing, overthinking about the problem, right?
Mhm.
That's the signal. Say, wait a sec, this isn't going to help me. In fact, all of the research shows that focusing on your problems just makes your problems worse. But
Yeah.
when you focus on what you would want things to be like, what would be the ultimate solution for the problem, and what would that look like, and what would it feel like, and you get clear on that, that is the way that you overcome those negative thoughts and negative emotions. And every time those old thoughts, those old emotions come up, you just train yourself to see that as a signal for change. It's like, whoops, I'm thinking the old way. That's my signal to think in this new way, to focus on this new vision that I see that is absolutely possible for me to have.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Lovely. Really loved it. And um that's really great, Jason. This is such an eye-opening conversation. And I mean this you have given us so much actionable takeaways on how we can rewire our brains to manage stress, boost decision making, and unlock the higher levels of performance. So, thank you so much for sharing your insights today. And for all the listeners, if today's conversation has sparked something inside you, then I challenge you to take the first step towards rewiring your own mind. So, start small, maybe with 5 minute meditation or uh, a conscious reframe of your stress. So, and also do not forget to follow Jason's work with NeuroChange Solutions to keep up with the incredible tools he's offering to help entrepreneurs just like you. And until next time, this is your host Avik signing off from Healthy Mind and Healthy Life. Stay curious, stay balanced, and keep building the life that you deserve. So do not forget to subscribe, share this episode, and leave us a review if you found it valuable. So catch you soon. Thank you so much.